Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 18. Tonight we're talking Pantera. How are we doing tonight, boys?
Good.
Excellent. Excellent. Happy New Year to everybody.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Not that the flip on a calendar really is going to change too much from 2020, but I guess you can just cross your fingers and
Hope, man. That's all we got. Hope.
that's all we got. All we got is some
My
hope.
2020 was all right. I had an all right 2020.
Well, you had your kid and you had all that other stuff, so that's pretty aces.
No.
Yeah, it wasn't all bad.
So what are we drinking tonight?
I picked up a special one today, actually, and I was really happy to see it in the liquor store. So this is a brewery called Land and Sea, which is down the street from me. And yeah.
Cool.
So it's like there's a couple breweries. I shouldn't say a couple. There's more than a couple here, but a lot of them will, they'll brew and just sell at the pub and, or they'll sell growlers, but it's like a big step when they start canning. So I was happy to see these guys, they've got cans on the shelf now. So it's pretty sweet. So this is Land and Sea, and this is a glacier cream ale, which I think is like the best one that they make. It's really nice.
What makes it a glacier cream ale? Is it just all
Yeah, man, we got the
glacier
Comox
water?
Glacier that's
Or
like
from the tap?
right in front of us. So yeah,
Straight into the tap.
yeah. So I don't know where they get their water from, but they right?
Trucked in from Indonesia.
Yeah. But no, I'm pretty sure it's Glacier. It's off the Glacier, and yeah, it's just like a super simple cream ale. It's nice.
Can I see the label on that? Sorry. Cool. Yeah, and I don't think I've seen that in the liquor store, that label. They look the same, just different
I don't know.
colors?
It's the first time I've seen it, so I would imagine they just got it
yeah.
in probably right before the year ended. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a growler? Do you go fill it up?
I don't know. I've done the growler a couple of times, and
Yeah.
usually I just wind up drinking way too much beer. It's just I don't know. It's just not. I like cans, or
Yeah.
I like partitioning my beer. I like quantifying it.
Can
If
at
I
least
have a
count it
giant
out.
jug in front of me, it's just not going to be a productive night.
What do you mean? You only had
Yeah,
one
right?
beer?
Yeah. So I don't know. You guys all about the growlers or what?
I haven't had any growlers in forever, so I'm just sticking with cans.
I've got a Stanley insulated growler that I got as a present. So I fill it up, I just keep it in the car. And then whenever, you know what I mean? Because every time that you are at a pub that you want something, you never have your growler, right? You're never going to drive back and get it.
Oh, I see.
So it's just there in your vehicle, and I'm like, shit, I'll just fill it up right here, and then you take it home, right? So, but I get you, because almost when you crack the seal, it's time to you got to drink it all pretty much within the next couple hours, or it's going to go flat and warm
it's
and
just
disgusting,
yeah,
right?
COVID.
So it's good if you got
Yeah,
more than one
yeah.
person too. If Nicole and I do it, it's like a pitcher of beer, at the pub.
Right.
That's kind of the same amount that's in there. So. But, it's just fun to get different draft beers and then bring them home.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Stanley, I don't
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. There's our shout out. There you go. There's our free ad. Yeah.
Send things and stuff.
Yeah. It's like a big thermos, but it's got the latch top that you just latch it shut. So it has the seal to keep all the fizz in.
Nice.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm drinking I've never had this before. This is apparently Germany's #1 draft beer, but I've never had a Bitburger before, so I'm going to try.
I have seen the can.
I'm going to give that a go. Have you guys ever tried this?
I haven't tried it, but I've seen the can.
Yeah. #1 beer in
It's cheaper than water over there, Mike.
I mean,
yeah, but
is
I mean,
so this is like the Molson Canadian of Germany.
probably a bit better than Molson Canadian, but yeah.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, it tastes like a good Pilsner. Standard.
Cool.
Bitburger.
Bitburger. In the Deutschland. Mike, what do you got?
Well, I've got tonight from Rogue Brewery or Rogue Ale and Spirits, Dead Guy Ale.
I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
I know. I used to drink them like mad in probably between 2000 and probably 2004.
Yeah,
And
great
then
can.
I haven't had it since. So I just saw it at my local liquor store. Figured I'd check it
There
out
was
or try it
one
again. So.
pub in the Netherlands, and it was in this town called Utrecht that I'd have to go to about an hour and a half away from where I was, and they would have it. It was in
On
a
tap?
bottle. Yeah, in a bottle.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was like so nice to get an American beer there. A good American beer. But.
Well, it's funny because it's American beer, but it's a German Maibach style.
Sure. Yeah.
So you get it over there, and it's a American beer, but it's the style of basically where you are in Europe. So
You got that at BC Liquor Store?
no, I got that on I don't remember the name of the liquor store, but it's they got a good selection at this other place. I had to switch out because I couldn't find this or anything different and fancy and interesting at the BC liquor store. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
yeah, so they had the 4-can big boy, tall boys, whatever, and it's 6.8%. So that's always rocking. So
It'll get you drunk.
indeed.
Yep.
Seems fitting we're talking about fucking Pantera.
Yep.
This is fun. This is a good deep dive on all that.
Well, I was doing my damnedest to find there's a new beer that came out. It's a Pantera beer out of Texas, and I guess it's not out yet, but I saw a bunch of info on the interwebs there. So
Yeah. I saw like those ads pop up for it when I was doing Pantera research. So,
yeah, wicked stoked for that, but you can't get it here, unfortunately. So
Yeah. Like what's in that? Like whiskey and rusty nails and
whiskey and weed,
yeah.
whiskey and weed. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Like I'll try it. If I see it, I'll probably try it.
I'd like to try and special order it just to give it a go, because a lot of that stuff they can't really get over the border for whatever reason. I got into contact with a couple smaller breweries in the States to try and get them on the podcast and have an opportunity to try their wares, right? And most of this stuff you can't even get over the border. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably pretty spicy.
Who owns who?
Well,
I was just gonna say.
Sorry, go ahead.
Who would own the rights to that? Is that Phil?
no, well, it would be
Or
a
does-
mix between, well, Phil is still around, Rex is still
That's it, the other
around,
two,
and Dimebag's girlfriend slash wife. She owns a lot of the whatever he left behind.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
and I guess it would be Vinny's estate as well would have a say in a bunch of it too. So, that's kind of tough because when you look at Phil leaving, how much did he leave behind to the name, right?
Yeah, I suppose you're right. And they're still like releasing stuff. Like, what was the latest release? Wasn't there like a box set, or it was a book? Something weird,
Yeah.
like a book, or like I remember.
Well, it was they had was it reinventing this? Well, they did a lot of the remake or
But Phil
re-releases.
was heavily
I guess.
promoting. It was like a box set or
I
yeah,
do
it was
remember
like last
seeing this.
year.
I don't remember the name.
It was everything. It was everything like you just mentioned. It had the book. It had like DVDs. It had CDs in it. It had it all. Like it was a full package.
I think it's reinventing the Steel
right.
special edition.
Yeah,
something.
and they got whatever. And I didn't see Rex at all. It was just Phil that was like promoting it. Plus, I mean, he's got like the record company, right? So he has the means to, I don't know, maybe.
Who has the record company?
Yeah, he's got
Oh,
Hellscore.
I guess Phil, but he has that, but he doesn't have rights to the record company where they recorded everything, right? Yeah. So, and that was mostly Dime and Vinny's dad's.
Oh, yeah, really.
That was he owned the studio where they recorded most of their albums.
The rights to the music.
Yeah, see that I'm not 100%.
Yeah,
I guess whatever record label you would assign to,
or Warner Brothers.
they were with Atco, I think. I don't know what, or at
ATCO.
Maybe not a C. I'm thinking of Atco from Alberta. ATO. I think it's ATO.
I'm on the Wikipedia,
sure.
and the picture of Phil is awesome. He has like a bloody thing in the middle of his head, and he looks really pissed off.
Yeah,
and it's like,
as per usual.
Yeah, that's pretty much
Atco
the standard.
Records is an American record label founded in 1955. Is owned by Warner Music Group. Okay.
Warner, there you go.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
I always get like so
to
confused with that because it's like this record label is also this record label. Is this all just like a bunch of small record labels, which is owned by like David Geffen?
Definitely.
Or yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah. There was a handful of big ones, and then I think it was in the 90s when all this indie bands were getting huge, late 90s and whatever, and then they started up opening these subsidiary record label deals that were all under the umbrella of the big names. So
yeah, like even when I worked at the music,
you can still say you're on an indie label, but it's owned by Warner or whomever.
Yeah, when I worked at the music store in the 90s, that's like we had all those different reps that came in. So we had one from EMI, but then EMI had all of like Interscope and like all these different subsidiary record companies, and then the Universal lady would come by, but she had like MCA and she had all these other ones, and then Sony, there was a Sony rep, and the same thing, had all these different like sub labels. So anytime you wanted a CD from a band, you had to like figure out what they were on, right? What is at the time, what was Interscope Records, who owns that, right? So I'm like, you got pretty good at figuring out who was with what, and then you're like, okay, I know who to ask for that CD, or like tickets to that concert, right? Because I'd be like, who's coming in Sony, and then I'd find out who's coming. If it was a good artist, then you just try to get tickets for it and you put in for it, and then a lot of times you get them.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Do you remember when they made Fred Durst the president of Interscope? Click.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did that last?
I think Fred Durst made Fred Durst the president of Interscope.
Yeah.
But on like a tree diagram of all that would be really interesting, like just to see like the landscape.
It's got to be out there, man.
Yeah. And even with ones crossed out that are defunct, right? Just so you know that they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of those too. So I had never, before, like a long time ago, I had never listened to like the very first Pantera albums, like the 1980s ones.
Oh god,
The glam ones.
The glam ones, yeah. So I went back to that like only very recently and listened to it for the first time, and I guess it's exactly what it it says it is, right? Like it's spandex and hairspray and glam rock, and
It's
right
very
Metal
Judas
magic.
Priest
Big time.
was the style of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just funny,
Metal.
I guess, like seeing, I don't think we can probably name very many bands that went through such a change in style between what they started with to what they are now, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that there's lots of artists that go in different directions and try different things out, but you can still kind of say that band is who they are, right? Like, but it's funny. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's other ones that I don't know about, but it feels like that's big change.
Well, that's the thing with this is, I mean, in that time, that's what you had to do because that's what was popular, right? So any small band in any state, province, whatever, had to get a gig in any club or any bar at that time. You had to play that style of music and you had to dress up that way. Even if you didn't want to, that's how you got on stage. So, you know, when they put out Metal Magic and then Projects in the Jungle and I Am the Night, and they all, it was the time, right? And they had a different singer. I mean, they had a cat named Terry Glaze that was full on hair metal guy, right? So this was all before Phil came in. And then when they put out Power Metal in '88, that's when, you know, before that Terry Glaze left and they found Phil, and that already started to shift things. You know, you go from the glam to now Phil brings in some of this, his hardcore angle.
It's like, I guess the rest of those kind of bands from back then fizzled out, right? Like Poison was not a thing eventually, right? Like nobody thought Poison was cool beyond a certain point. It feels like, you know, or like, but Pantera managed to like survive that and completely reinvent themselves at the same time and do a 180 almost in their musical style. And here they are today, right? And obviously they changed lead singers, and that's a big deal in a band, but they still survived, right? Like it feels like if Poison would have switched singers and went a different direction, like maybe Poison still would have had a name like that was,
but they didn't have Phil.
Oh no, there is only one Phil. I mean,
there is only one Phil. But that was the thing. He brought in all the hardcore stuff that, a completely different influence, and he brought in a lot more thrash. Like when you look at Dime and Vinny prior to that, you know, anytime before that is thrash was still young, right? So when they started recording power metal in 87, it was released in 88. So now you're looking Injustice for All. So now that's your next big influence, right? It's like this is kicking ass, and we're gonna go back and listen to these other albums, or Phil's bringing these other things like, you know, you got Metallica, you got Cro-Mags, you got anything Henry Rollins that he's bringing into this pile that either they've heard before and just didn't delve into, or they, you know, he just turned them on and they got hooked on it, right?
Yeah.
And that changes
and it's
everything.
Weird because when you listen to Pantera, it's like, so there's Phil and like he's screaming and it's intense and like he is a huge presence, but like for me Pantera is like Dimebag. Like that guy, not only did he like create this original sound, but like he did it effortlessly. It was like, it seemed like he had done like all of this legwork, all of this sort of like transition thing that we're talking about. But it was like Phil. The funny thing is like Phil did bring in like bands like Celtic Frost. Like you sent me that. There was some sort of podcast that you sent me, Mike, and he was talking about how they were like doing their tours, and Phil would like put on like Celtic Frost, and that's heavy just shit,
heavier,
which like
heavier,
sparked something in Dimebag, I guess. And
and in Vinny too. I mean, when you look at his drumming, it just stepped up another level, like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In intensity.
So it's really crazy. You would think that this would come from, you know, the guitar player, and especially like Dimebag Daryl, right? But it came from
previously Diamond Daryl.
Diamond.
And like and
Yeah.
also like
Yeah.
Phil came from like New Orleans, right? Like he didn't come from the East Coast
Yeah.
or the West Coast where all this shit was popping off. Like
Nope.
he came from fucking
Nope.
like nowhere. And then they brought him into Texas
Yep.
and then they sort of like started their scene in Texas, which is also like fucking crazy. But
Well, it's cool too because you look back at the musicianship of Dime and also Vinny. I mean, going back, they started so young. I was doing a bunch of reading where because I do a lot of digging on just guitar gear, nerdery, and whatnot. So I always wanted to know what started Dime with Dean guitars and what got them into Washburn guitars and what got them into Randall amps and that sort of thing. And there was a part on there where they were he was talking about at age 13, 14, he was entering in these guitar shred contests and winning all of them, and all of these contests for the most part, I mean, first prize was you win a guitar. And when he was 14, he won a Dean ML guitar, which is the one that he used, he's known for. And that's kind of what started that. So, I mean, at 14, when you're crushing it at that age, what happens when you're 20,
and you
whatever,
meet Phil
right?
and Selmo.
And you meet Phil, and you get introduced to more thrash, and you get introduced to hardcore, and you get introduced to these other things. I mean, when you grow up, Kiss and Van Halen and Judas Priest and all these other bands, and then you get, heavier, harder, more aggressive angles to it, it's going to change your outlook on everything, right? So that's kind of where that pivot happened, I think. So.
And it's a quick pivot.
Yeah.
1988 to 1990, the difference between those two albums is night and day, right? Like, it's crazy. And it also makes you wonder, like, were these guys, like, did they just practice their chops, or did they always have them, like, over those 2 years? Because, wow, Cowboys from Hell comes out, and it's like, what is this? They
were gigging like mad their whole lives. I mean, they were, just as kids, they were, technically kids, whatever, teens in early 20s, that's all they did. And you look at Phil, where, he dropped out of high school and he was basically full-time singer in bands and, doing 5 sets a night, 7 days a week kind of thing. You're going to get real good, real fast kind of deal. So that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah. And, Dane, you were talking about Dimebag as the kind of the guy that you think about for Pantera, and for me it's Vinnie Paul. That is Vinnie Paul was like in my Modern Drummer magazines all the time when I was a kid, right? Like, I remember seeing Vinnie Paul all the time in there, and just like I think like I put him in my top 10
really,
without a doubt, of drummers
Easily.
of all time. Oh man. He is
Easily.
He is so good. He knows exactly where to put double kicks to make it sound just perfect. Like, and it is so tight, and it is so groovy. Like, he's got such a good groove to his playing that it's that good. Like, it has that built-in swing almost to it, and his technique is fantastic. It's flawless. Like, as a player, when you actually watch him play, he has unbelievable technique, and it's effortless. Like, the guy can do that stuff all day long, and it's like it's nothing to him. And that's just, I can't imagine drumming like that every night, but it's so efficient that it's awesome. It's just fantastic, right? And everything else that's going around it, obviously. And I totally understand the Dimebag side of it, but for me, the whole thing driving the whole ship is Vinnie Paul, and the rest of it's just icing on that cake.
Well, it's hand in hand with both of them, right? Growing up together.
Yeah.
They when they jam so much from the start of everything, and they put in the time, and when Dime when he was a kid, he got this copy Les Paul, and his favorite band was Kiss, and for forever he was just miming in the mirror, dressed up like Ace Frehley, and playing along to the records. And then when he finally decides to, or gets a push from Vinny to actually start learning to play this thing, it's kind of like, okay, well, now I'm going to lock myself in my room for the next 8 months to a year kind of thing and focus on this. And then, 7-8 months later it comes out, okay, you want to jam?
Yeah.
And then it's go time. And then they're tight full on from there. So it's that connection where you don't even have to know where the other person is. You're just on the same page. So
yeah, and they played together for so many years, right? Even before, and doing all that. So it's got to be a real good connection by that point, right? And yeah, it's just neat, the evolution of all of that and how it came to be, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, underrated though, hey.
But I listened to that power metal album too. Have you heard that? Have you listened to that power metal album?
I did,
recently?
yeah. Actually, about 8 years ago. So I went back and I torrented all their glam albums.
Yeah,
and I dug into those pretty hard for a little while. And yes, it's very different from what you would expect from Pantera, but at the same time, you can tell certain bits and pieces are there from the start. And then when you get into power metal, you can tell that there is a transition coming when Phil comes, and sure, there's a lot of there's the same 80s Judas Priest style flow to it, but you can tell there's a couple songs in there where now we're a little heavier, and now we're putting a couple other influences in, that kind of thing. So it wasn't, I don't see it being a surprise between power metal and Cowboys from Hell, but definitely a different path. But
yeah, and I don't know, I'm not sure where Rex fits into all this as far as I don't really ever notice him. It feels like I never notice the bass very much. I don't really pay attention to it, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But Dane, as a bass, from that side of things, what do you think? What are your thoughts there?
Okay, I don't think I've played the bass enough to really have an in-depth sort of let's say introspective opinion on this, but I think a good bass player, depending on the genre of music, and this genre of music is it's groove metal, right? And you want to hold up that guitar, and the less the more in the background you are, I think the better bass player you are. He did his job. He looked like a skinny crackhead, just kind of standing in the corner. He didn't really do much. He didn't really say much, but he kept up with Daryl. So I
definitely
think, just to sort of play the role. And I have no idea what kind of input he had as far as writing music. I don't think he really had a lot. I just think he was there. He showed up. He did his job. As far as I understand, he almost drank himself to death, like all of them. But yeah, I don't think he has anything really special to offer as far as talking about groundbreaking. We were talking about Cliff Burton a couple podcasts ago, and that's someone that you can really sort of pick elements and groundbreaking sort of things that he added and made Metallica into something special. But I don't see Rex Rocker. I don't think he did that for Pantera.
Yeah.
So, but whatever.
Yeah, he definitely held his own. I mean, when you go from being a glam bassist to a glam / hardcore / thrash / groove bassist, I mean, it's a jump to just keeping up. But he was with the guys for long enough that it doesn't matter what turns you make, he was able to keep up. So.
And again, Vinnie Paul, I think super underrated. I remember you and me looking at the drum magazines, and he played with his fucking sticks backwards because it was more heavy or something like that. And being a part of a band with two brothers that are on their A game, and not having the need or the want to show yourself as well, or like, outshine like everyone else on stage. Like you've got like, you've got, Dimebag, you've got Phil on stage who's being an animal, and like he just sort of like kept to himself and did his thing. So, I think that,
Well, that's the big thing too.
I just think he deserves some accolades for, just surviving that band. Holy fuck. They were like,
definitely.
They were the craziest band out during that time.
Yeah. If you're not partying and drinking every night, you're fired, kind of a thing. So you have to keep up and party, otherwise you're done. It's they're one of the only bands that if you most bands, if you're a drunk and whatever, you're out. But if you don't drink and party, you're out.
With him in it, he looks hungover as fuck. They're all just like ready to go. Yep. They look okay, but he just looks haggard.
Well,
and tired.
Yeah, I read too that like Vinny or Phil, that when he OD'd on heroin, he was clinically dead for 4 or 5 minutes, and then he played another show 2 days later. Yeah. I'm like, what? Like, what was that show like? Probably first of all, and second of all, probably not, but maybe it was unbelievable. I don't know. Like 2 days later, you're clinically dead for 5 minutes of your life, and you're just like, all right, let's do this. It's crazy.
Well, even prior to that overdose, he was falling apart on stage. I mean, with all the back problems and, trying to dull the pain and, drinking far too much, and then, completely losing your space or falling over, and everybody is still a well-oiled machine, even if they're drunk off their ass and hungover, and you can still do 10 more shots and then get on stage, and it's like Dime and Vinny weren't even feeling it. But
there's some
just
live
weird
shows. There's some live shows where you see Phil and you're like, whoa, like there's some like stuff that comes out of his mouth. It's like, I think he got in trouble for some racist stuff. I don't think he's a racist, but I think he's just so drunk off his ass, and from the South and whatever. And there's a couple of shows where it's like not good, and like whatever. What do you expect going to a Pantera show? But
right. They wave the flag, so it's not like you're going to be surprised from where they come from.
I was really surprised because he was always about, like, when you sort of like read his lyrics, and like I'm probably one of the only people out there that's actually like looked into Phil's lyrics, but it's all about it's really about self-empowerment and him sort of definitely explaining to the world his strength and his belief in himself. But I found on YouTube, he's doing like a talk at a university, and he's basically going through a period of time, like situation by situation, of him being completely addicted to heroin. And it's something he's really embarrassed about, because he was completely helpless. And he's explaining how he was just like he couldn't do anything, laying in bed waiting for the drug dealer to show up, and then doing a fix, and then basically like waking up and then waiting for the drug dealer to show up and doing a fix. And this was like the complete opposite of like what he was showing people on stage. So it's crazy that he kind of got into that world for a little bit, and then eventually like whatever kicked it and moved on to other things. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because you kind of feel like a hypocrite at some point, probably, right? Because you're talking about this and singing about it, and you can't do anything about it, right? Because you're completely
just sweeps
helpless.
you away.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the first time you heard Pantera?
Yes. Very first time for me was a VHS tape of the concert called For Those About to Rock, Monsters in Moscow.
Yeah, the black and white one.
So So we picked this up. My pops picked it up because it was AC/DC and Metallica, and that's all we knew off of it. But there was also the Black Crowes and Pantera.
The Black Crowes right fixed straight in there, hey?
Yeah, but this was the first opening in Russia to Western metal bands, and this was what they recorded in '91. So they had set up the show, and it was AC/DC, Metallica, Black Crowes, and they had called on Pantera when they were still in the studio for Vulgar. So they pulled them across there. They were still recording Vulgar, so they went out as the opening band to this whole thing, and they just crushed it. And I had no idea who they were, and after this I was just so blown away. I had never seen anything like it. And yeah, it was.
They took that footage
unreal.
or they used Domination. Yeah, for video.
Domination. Yeah,
and I would say that could possibly be Pantera at their peak. It was so they were like still young, and just like
definitely
on the cusp of like releasing Vulgar, and Vulgar was such an amazing and like inspiration as far as like they sort of transcended thrash and made groove. And I don't even think groove metal is a great way to explain what that sound was, but like that time was like they were on like getting like major airplay on like Much Music, I remember, and it was but what a great concert that.
Definitely. But that was the thing. I mean, when you go over there and you're Pantera at that point, and you haven't played big arenas yet, you haven't, you're getting bigger, but you're not that massive headline band. So you go to playing these 1,000 to maybe 2,000 audience venue, to going and flying out to Russia and walking on a stage in Moscow to a ocean of people, like and to be able to crush it to the point that they did. I mean, when they were still able to control a crowd, and they had that star power. And that, going back to a little while ago, when you look at a band, it's so rare that you have more. Most bands will have one star power, and the rest of them are just kind of there. And then you look at Pantera, and they've got technically 3 star power players, right? With the charisma and the energy and the talent and the everything. That whole piece, the whole group, that's why they got so big, because everybody was on that next upper level, instead of just the singer's great and everyone else is there, or just the guitar player's great and everyone's there. Can you imagine
playing a show with like the Russian army as security staring you down?
Oh man. Yep.
And that kind of music?
It's unbelievable. Like, I haven't seen like the entire concert, like what you're. Oh, I'll have to find it.
It's so cool. It's so damn cool, man.
That video is just like, oh yeah.
But I think even the military that were doing the security were also stoked about it. They
probably,
they were never able to see these things, and I'm sure some of them in that group would have been so overwhelmed and mind blown at the experience that they were going through, right? That they just probably turned into super fans just being there, right? I mean, I couldn't even fathom.
Yeah, they were just shitting their pants because they're like, wow, Pantera just came out and did this, and I get to listen to Metallica and AC/DC.
Yeah.
And then the Black Crowes.
Did the Black Crowes headline that? Oh, okay.
No,
I probably
AC/DC.
I seem to remember it was AC/DC headlining, so it would have been Pantera opening, and then Black Crowes. Now imagine Black Crowes coming on stage after Pantera.
That's what I'm saying. They're just out of place in this entire thing, right? It's like,
damn.
I found out
borscht on the stage.
Yeah, I would. I found out that that's that song, their main song, is
Yeah.
a cover song. I didn't know it was a cover song.
Hard
to handle. Hard to handle.
Yeah, we found that when we were doing a bunch of digging for
Yeah.
what was it? Was it the top 100 we were doing?
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. I just
The Rolling Stone top 100. I think we found it
The
out
original is
through that.
more of a bluesy
okay.
version, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a soul
Yeah.
one kind of. Yeah,
with a little less Hannah now.
Yeah.
yeah.
Black Crowes, man, that's interesting. They only had like 2 hits, but like they could still, I'm sure, fill seats. They could put butts in seats.
They
Did
did
they?
a lot of albums, and they did very well for only having a
I don't
handful
know,
of
maybe
hits.
it's just
yeah.
like a strong following or something like that.
Well, even go in the live concert that they put out with Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, when you can play a show with Jimmy Page, you probably did okay. So even with your 2 hits,
Yeah. Really, like that's.
but
Mike, your first Pantera,
Holy
where did your ears get fucking shattered? First time.
You know, I think this is another one that I ripped off of you. You had Vulgar Display of Power on CD, and I ripped it off you, and I borrowed it for a bit, and then that was it. Like that was, and then I kind of went backwards from there, and then yeah, so it was Vulgar Display of Power for sure, and that was right around that time. I don't know when that was, 12, 13 years old kind of thing.
92.
Wow.
So you'd have been we were like 12. Yeah,
Great.
Yeah,
11,
5.
12. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just remember singing Walk at parties all the time too,
Yeah.
right?
What do you say?
Yeah, we would
At
sing
being
that all
11.
the time. Yeah. I just remember putting that on at parties, and we would sing that like later on,
But
not in
later
grade
on.
5, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but it was kind of a party standard for a lot of times. Just putting that song on. And then fucking Hostile, putting those
Yeah. What a great song.
Oh, with one of the greatest screams in metal history at the end of that song. It just like fantastic.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Dane?
It was actually Much Music, but I saw them when they were being interviewed by, what was her name? Erica.
Erica M.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they had just dropped Vulgar. So it was 91 and I was 11. And I was in grade 5. And I remember it blew my little mind. I was like, this dude sings for or screams for the whole song. He screams. He doesn't sing. And it was, what was the name of that first release? Dun, 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 dun.
Mouth of War.
Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like black and white. Fuck, I can't remember. Anyway, I was just like hooked from day one. I just couldn't believe that. This guy could just scream for an entire song. No, that's
I'm broken.
Sorry, I'm wrong. It wasn't.
The riff you did was unbroken.
Hold on a second. Now I have to like find this because it's pissing me off. It was
Yeah, so you're on Far Beyond
Look at
Driven.
me sounding like a fucking
that one.
Nimrod here.
Come on, man.
What was it? Whoa! I just saw typo negative is in this. Hold on a second here.
Probably Primal Concrete Street. Primal
No,
Concrete
great song.
Sledge. No, because they didn't have a video for that. No.
Oh, it was. It was Mouth of War.
Mouth of War, maybe. Yeah.
Revenge. I'm seeking revenge again. Wrong. I've been wrong for far too long. Yeah. Mouth for War, man.
It's a pretty good impression, man.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah. So that was it. I think it was Much Music, and they had that interview, and they were just like, they just seemed so cool. I was like, this. I've never heard anything like this before, ever. And then Far Beyond Driven came out, and I didn't like it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to it now, it's okay.
Which is kind of mad because that debuted at number 1 in the Billboard
Yeah,
music
right?
charts. And that's when the music charts had everybody mixed in. It wasn't just, oh, we have a metal chart and we have a pop chart and we have a country chart and we have it's everyone's thrown into the same mix. That's massive.
Coca-Cola countdown.
Massive. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then
They almost get heavier for me. I don't know. As those albums go on, it feels like it gets slowly
Really?
more heavy.
I don't think they ever got heavier after Far Beyond
Reinventing the
Driven.
Steel's heavy as fuck, though.
It is, but it's all on par with the flow
You
of
think?
the others, right? It gets to a point where they're all great songs, but after they did Vulgar and Far Beyond Driven, I think they plateaued there and they continued to kill it, but I think they plateaued.
Yeah, like I don't know the Tread Kill's got lots of screaming on it. Like there's a lot. I know there's lots of ballads on that album too, but there's still a lot of screaming. Like it's
And
pretty.
that's kind of the album that sort of got lost in the mix too. I mean, a lot of people don't really go to that one as a choice.
No, I read too that they Daryl was tuned down to drop G on that album for the majority of that album. That's what I read.
That doesn't sound right.
Drop G tuning. Check it out.
I'll check it out. It doesn't sound right, but yeah.
I wrote it down.
Huh.
A drop G, hey?
Yeah. Search it.
I'm trying to. This fucking Wikipedia page is a mess.
Oh, it's everywhere. Yeah.
Well, I got digging into Guitar World there because I've got a stockpile of almost every edition since I started playing guitar in 92, 93 kind of thing. And I did some digging on that with the copies that I have and some on the internet. And they had a Guitar World's greatest guitar solos of all time kind of thing. And it was saying that Floods from the Great Southern Treadkill, they chose that as number 15 on their top 100, and Cemetery Gates was 35 and Walk was 57.
The guitar solo in Floods still puts goosebumps on my arm.
The trouble that I had with that, and I think Cemetery Gates solo was better. Yeah.
Maybe
because with Floods, what I can remember with Floods is it was definitely recorded in multiple takes and then blended in. But when you look at Cemetery Gates, it's from the start to finish. It even if it wasn't recorded in one take, it sounds like it was one take, and it just rips from start to finish.
And I'm getting this from and I don't know when these videos were released, but around 2009-ish on YouTube, there was all of these live videos from their Reinventing the Steel tour. And it's like Phil in his red vest, and he's got like the long hippie hair. And there's they do a version of Floods, and that's like the solo that I'm talking about. So maybe
it's a killer solo. It's just how they did it on the album. How it blended and crossed over. Like before one section was done, they would blend the next section in.
Yeah.
Not that it's a lesser solo, but I just the production side of it threw me. It was like, okay, this is great, and then it sort of loses something, and then it's cool, and then it loses something instead of like a start to finish. I'm tearing your face off and carrying on, right? So, but that's just my opinion.
There's a bunch of good ones on Trendkill. I actually really like that album now that I'm looking through it here.
Yeah, I had to go back. So for the longest time, I stuck with the first three, and I did. I did Southern Treadkill a couple times, and it was really good. And then I kind of left it behind for, I would stick with the same, or you'd get into Reinventing the Steel with Goddamn Electric and tracks like that. So like a lot of people, you just sort of skip over one, and then going back to it, it was so solid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw there was a they did a tour with White Zombie in
fuck,
1992.
really?
And I'm like,
Yep.
can you imagine that show? Like what that would have been like? And they were opening up
Really?
for White Zombie. Yeah. Like I
Well,
can't even imagine
that's
what that
another
would
thing
cost.
too, man. Well, that's another thing too. I mean, when you look, you dig into the sound that they have. I mean, it's basically a hardcore White
I
Zombie.
disagree.
Yeah.
Really? You think so?
No.
In the same because they have the same sort of groove flow to them, where it's very much guitar and drum driven, right? And it's very much groove driven. It's along the same lines. I can see a really tight comparison
Okay. Yeah.
to the
Okay.
two.
I agree with that.
Not on the same page, but a very tight comparison.
You know what I thought? Again, listening to Pantera a little bit more and more. Like if you just take not the singing, but if you take just the guitar and the bass and the drums, it's a lot of smalls in there too.
Yeah.
Really?
A lot.
I don't know where you
of
get this
smalls.
from,
Yeah,
man.
man. Listen to it. If you listen to like My Dear Little Angle and listen
Yeah.
to some Pantera, and like obviously it's heavier, yes, but like just talk about the guitar, bass, and drums. Like just take that and maybe slow it down a bit, and there's a lot of the same grooves that like happen, and you'll see the connection.
They had a lot of the same sort of hardcore thrash influence, right? So I mean, when
Yeah.
you get into that stage and the Smalls being at the time they were, of course they would have been heavily influenced by the same acts and whatnot. So
Interesting. I'll have to compare those two. Not compare, but just listen to them.
Yeah.
like, one after the other.
yeah,
I see them as being so different, but
Just take another look. Check it out.
well, one thing we also need to bring up here that that Flip was mentioning a couple days ago between what was the song we were talking about? Pantera Rise.
Rise, yeah.
So Rise versus Helmets Unsung.
It sounds
Really?
a lot alike.
So you've got Pantera Rise, you've got Helmet Unsung, and you've got a band called Grunt
Oh, yeah.
Truck that all have that all have the same flow in riff,
Yeah.
like
we've
identical.
got no time to lose. Your news is old news. Hate this, hate me, hate this. Yeah. Okay. Rise.
Like it's so the choppy,
Yeah, maybe.
and it's almost identical. It's unreal. I found a video online that puts all three of them side to side, and it's unreal. Now Grunt Truck's version came out first, and then when you look at Pantera and Helmet, they were released the same year, but I didn't know who. I couldn't find out who, I guess, stole it first.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, but like I threw it on. I was going to the dump this a couple days ago, and I threw it on. I threw Vulgar on, and it was on my headphones. I'm like, man, I listened to it again. It sounds like Helmet. This song sounds like Helmet. So yeah, and then the other song that was This Love.
That was a bit of a stretch.
No
but yeah.
way, man! I'm telling you, you can hear it. It sounds like Bryan Adams' "Run to You."
I'm gonna run to you.
So the first little
Yeah,
the first little section, the repeating chord with the chorus on it has the same time, the same flow, the same feel as Bryan Adams.
It
and
seems
Run
it's
to You,
got
but
the same
the rest of the
guitar
song
sound.
changes.
The
The rest
sound
of the
of the
song
gu-
changes.
Bryan Adams, I'll run to you.
No,
This
this
Love.
was.
Oh, that's like
This
the
Love.
shittiest song.
Yeah.
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 When they start getting
But if
like
you listen
heavy,
to those-
For the
like
No, that's
For the
out.
shit-
That's out. You're like it's just the bound. No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
I'm gonna run to you.
Yeah,
there it is right there. Holy shit!
yeah.
yeah.
And it's
yeah,
slower, right? Like it's slower. And yeah,
I don't
But
know.
anyways.
Maybe Dimebag was listening to some
And it-
Bryan Adams. Who knows? It could
It's
have been
possible.
there.
Who knows?
Throwback to episode
Right?
1.
We should have put Dime in that. Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Okay, I was going to ask then, Mike. We were talking about Rex. We talked about Vinnie Paul. So where is Dimebag on your personal top 10?
Fuck
He's
yeah.
top 5.
Wow.
Top
There you go.
top 3.
Dime is top 5 without a doubt. Without a doubt. When you get anything past top 5, it's so close that you couldn't narrow it down. It's like it hits a wall where they're all kind of sharing one. It's a weird space.
1A, B, and C.
Exactly. And in a different order for a different reason at different times. So
Yeah. I get that.
and a lot of the cats on that list are very huge influences on Dime anyway. So, when you look at Eddie Van Halen and cats like that, it's there's no way to not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not all technically driven, but it's all inspirational driven as well. Because I would definitely throw, I would have Eddie Van Halen, I would have Jimmy Page, I would have Tony Iommi, that kind of thing, right? They're definitely in that top 5 just because they changed everything, right? So once you get to once you get to the top 5, it's all on the same page.
Gotcha.
I can understand that. Yep.
Yeah. I would even throw James Hetfield in, the top
Wow.
6
really?
kind of thing. Because when
of
you
his
look at
downstroking.
the first, it's the thing, it's the rhythm, man. It's what drives the song, and it's so difficult to get that precise for that long. Like it's just there. It's you look at any top tier guitarist, even today, they still struggle and have to work to get to the point where he is at with his downstrokes and his tightness, plus being able to sing at the same time.
True. Yeah.
That's nuts. So, he's definitely like he's like number 6 kind of thing for me. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Kind of bringing it back to Pantera, I always thought it was interesting how you can see, you have bands, for example, Pearl Jam. We got 2 guitar players, and those guys can be off to the side doing whatever the fuck. But Eddie Vedder is kind of like front and center. Like he knows how to work a stage.
Right.
And there's some singers who don't really know how to do that. I mean, once you start getting off to like, the more or lesser known bands, it's difficult because especially when you're talking about music that's like really sort of groove driven, like it's the focus is a guitar, and sometimes the singer on stage like holding a microphone doesn't seem like you want to see like the singer with a guitar, like he needs to be doing a bunch of shit all at once. But for
Right.
Pantera, like
Right.
I think Phil was able to not only hold his own, but like sometimes take the spotlight away from Daryl, which I was always
Yep.
sort of like interested in. Like this dude was just like a monster on stage, and sometimes like too much for them to handle.
Right.
But like you say like a singer that sort of plays guitar at the same time, and there's a handful that do it to that intensity that well. But I think like the fact that like Pantera sort of had their superstar guitar player and like his brother, and they were reading each other's minds when they were playing. And then you also had like Phil, and there was this sort of balance where like it allowed them to get to this intensity where they just sort of like they were all masters of their craft and took it in like the directions that they thought it should have gone. So, I mean, Hetfield is,
Right.
especially earlier stuff. Like you look at live shows, even when they released the Black album, this is like going back to Metallica again. Like he is like owning that stage. Yeah, he's a fucking
100%.
monster.
Yep.
It's awesome to see. But at the same time, like you look at Pantera, I mean, like Phil didn't look awkward. He wasn't doing weird like dances on stage and trying to like, you know, fit in. Yeah,
shaking
like,
a tambourine.
You know, he was like a fucking metal god on stage. Like he really was. Like I can say I don't know if I have a top 5, but as far as like metal gods, like, yeah.
For singers in general, or just all
I think
around?
Phil Anselmo is like the epitome, and like when you look at his body of work, and it's not only like, so there's Superjoint Ritual and there's Down, and those are the more sort of known bands, but it's like Phil and the Illegals and like all of the other shit that he did, Viking Crown, King Viking, or whatever the fuck that band was. I was looking into it today, and there's a whole bunch of shit. It's the reason why he created Housecore, so he could release all of the stuff that he was doing, and it's all just fucking crazy music, except for like he's got an acoustic thing going on right now, or just recently, but
his new chill one where they're all suited up and
it's all
fancy. I thought it was kind of cool. It's a really cool,
but I don't
different
think
angle.
he pulls it off. You know, all of this sort of like me thinking of him as a metal god, maybe that didn't fit my idealized version of like Phil Anselmo, but everything else is just it's the most intense, the most craziest, it is the epitome of metal, or at least like the American version that I think is one of the most authentic dudes out there. You know, it's not, he's not trying to be something he's not, or maybe he is, whatever. But I think like he does it. He's one of the best guys out there that's done it in the US for sure.
Definitely. And even going from Pantera to, you know, he took about a year off from Pantera at the end there, and that was the really shitty thing that kind of killed Pantera. But well, that was the thing. I mean, he took so much time off, and I can kind of see why you would sort of want to shut down when you're at the pinnacle of everything. And, you know, it's a lot of weight when you're at that level in the game to okay, I'm going to gear down and I'm going to start down with some of my buddies from New Orleans, and we're just going to do some really cool, it's heavy, but it's not heavy like Pantera, and it's heavy, but it's chill, and it's super groovy, and it's super Southern New Orleans kind of a thing, right?
Way before he took that hiatus, they started down in like 91, right? And same with Phil and the Illegals, Superjoint and Phil and the Illegals. I thought that was just like a fucking joke that he did, but that band has been around forever too. So it wasn't like he's like, oh, I got this like year off, I'm just gonna fucking around. He had all of this shit going on at the same time, and not to mention like
and he was not even singing on some of those albums, right? He was playing guitar, right? And that took me down a little bit of a rabbit hole after that, because he was playing as Anton Crowley. Right. And Anton Crowley is another name for Aleister Crowley. And Aleister Crowley was this occultist magician back in the 1800s that started this religion. What's it called? Thelema is the religion. And there was like, I was like, okay, well, what is this? Like some crazy, like, you know, magic thing. And like, there's satanic, definitely, satanic or whatever. But it had like these 3 principles in it. And it was kind of cool, actually. It was like, not to go too deep on it, but it was like, everybody, like, we're all like stars, and we take up different parts of the universe for a certain point of time, and then we basically fade away. And like, we don't mess around with anybody else. Like, we don't interfere with other stars, but like, we just do what our will is, and we find our path. And then once we do that, then we just fade out and we're gone. And that's like the main kind of idea of it. And anyways, it took me down a little bit of a rabbit hole because I was like, what is this? And who is this guy? And, you know, why did he name himself Anton Crowley? And, you know, who is it? So
Was that with
it was crazy.
which band was that from?
Necrophagia.
It wasn't Arson M. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is like cannibalism. Like that's what that is. Yeah. Just crazy stuff. So, but anyways, so he's playing just guitar, right? Or doing like backing vocals and guitar on some of these albums. He's not even singing, right? Like, so I don't even know what kind of a guitar player he is. Like I haven't even seen him do it.
But, I mean, like if you listen,
he's on like 4 albums.
I listened. I got into a little bit of Arson Anthem. I was into that, and I think that's one of the ones where it's just like super fucking fast guitar. Like you can barely hear what he's playing. And the same with what's the other one? Oh no, the Illegals he sings on. But I think Arson Anthem is the one where it's just like it's really hard to get into it because it's so fast and just like intense.
Yeah, it's
it's interesting how you could sort of pigeonhole him as like this dude who's kind of like a bro, but like you said, Mike, he's got like a lot of tentacles out there, and there's references to all of these different things. And I think just like running a record label alone is something that you can't be a nitwit, right? You gotta kind of know what you're doing to do that. So but on our Halloween podcast, I mentioned Author and Punisher, and that guy is signed to Housecore Records. So Phil's
cool.
Yeah,
well, that's cool.
And there's crazy videos of him like working with the dude from Author and Punisher, and he's like they're doing some pre-production stuff, and he's in there just fucking smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and just like, no man, it's got to be like this, not and it's like he's got this weird sort of vibe that it's all or nothing for him, right?
Which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for him. I don't know if it's still working for him, but
oh man, he's an intimidating dude. He always has
just
been,
a
right?
Force.
Just
a force.
Always has been. But you know what song I love too? I love. We were talking about the Crow soundtrack, and I love The Badge. The Badge is like one of my favorite songs off of that whole soundtrack.
So good.
But I didn't know it was a cover tune until I did research. Yeah, it's a cover tune by Poison Idea.
No
is the name of the band.
Really?
I'd never heard of these guys.
Poison Idea is awesome.
Yeah. It was recorded in 1990. I didn't know these guys, so like went back and listened to some of it, and like it's okay. But the Badge that they do is like really good. Like it's actually quite close to Pantera's version, right? Like, but it even has the same like beginning too, with like the sounds and like the sound effects that have, you know, like the sound bites. Yeah, like it still has all that in there too, which is kind of
very cool.
Poison Idea was a punk rock band around. So, I think they were like second wave. They weren't like around during like Ramones, you know, like late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
Yeah, it was like right after that. Yeah.
Like, I think they were like LA punk scene. And they were pretty decent. They were like fucking hardcore. I think they were one of the first hardcore punk rock bands out there.
Yeah. Well, the Badge, like their version of the Badge had like 290,000 streams on it. So I'm like, wow.
Thanks, Pantera.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Pantera.
Right, for those.
You blew our shit up here for a little bit.
Yeah, but anyways, I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
Well, I would like to take a moment here to get into our usual Dave Mustaine section of every
Please
one of
do.
our fucking episodes, every
Please do.
single one. So Dave Mustaine had asked Vinny to join
way.
Megadeth. Was it? Sorry, was
No,
it Vinny or was Dime?
Dime.
They
It was
asked Dime. So he asked Dime. So Dime said he would do it only if they took Vinny with them. But they were all already committed to the drummer that they had at the time, so he didn't go. So they ended up getting Marty Friedman.
No way.
But he aced the audition. They made him audition.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally. He had the job.
Yeah.
He had the job, but they wouldn't take Vinny. They wouldn't take him as a package. Now, what the fuck would that have sounded like?
Oh man,
damn.
it would have made Megan Death way better.
That would have changed some shit.
Let's be honest.
That would have changed. I don't know. Marty Friedman was and still is amazing.
For
so
sure.
I mean, I can't say anything, but it would have been different. Definitely different.
Dimebag would have been on stage.
But that's
just
the thing,
fucking
too. I mean,
going nuts with his shirt off, and like
It's-
Mustain would have been like, it wouldn't have worked.
That's the problem, because when you look at Dime and Vinny, they steered the ship. They started Pantera. That it was their company kind of thing. So when you get into a pool, you get into business with Dave Mustaine, and he's another I'm running the show. It would have, they would have done one album and it would have been done. So
Dave Mustaine would be like, not again.
not again. They can't fire me. It's my band.
And it's a good name. I picked a good name.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever get into Damage Plan? Oh,
Yes, I did. That was it. It was not. It was really good. It was not Pantera good, and that's because it didn't have multiple star power. It was just Vinny and Dime trying to get by. But it was a solid
They fucked with his
offering.
tone, and
I just didn't like the singer. That's all.
yeah,
It was a solid offering, but it would never have been what it was. I mean, you only have two great people instead of, three or whatever.
I cannot imagine though that going down in that club when
Oh,
and you're
I've watched the
Yeah.
videos over and over again, and
I
it's,
still can't
it's
believe
fucking
it.
sad, man.
what a waste.
Like sad.
and
And
yeah.
the thing that really throws me is from everything that I've found on reasons why, apparently he was pissed off at Dime and Vinny for shutting down Pantera, but it wasn't them that shut down Pantera because they waited 2 years for
Phil.
Phil to come back, and he never came back. So it's like, okay, well, let's do something else. And a lot of the other videos that I was watching too, and with my digging, it was like, okay, so he got on stage, fuck, this sucks. He shot Dime, and then he was trying
Yeah,
to get to
Dime,
Vinny.
like,
that was
jumped
another
in front of him.
angle. He wanted to kill both of them that night. And well, I don't even think he jumped in front of him. It was just a matter of what's going on. Is this some guy just coming to stage dive? Because quite often it's a bunch of cats jumping the stage and jumping off.
yeah, when you look at
So when you got this ex
With a
fucking
mental
military guy
disorder, like,
coming
the
on
dude was
stage,
fucked. The dude
Oh,
didn't
fuck.
have his shit together.
it's fuck. Even today,
Yeah.
it's fucking sad, man.
I can't believe
but-
that they didn't have metal detectors even in clubs and even in going in like to big, stadium shows or even arena shows like back in the day. It's
You're-
kind of
you're
crazy.
allowed to
This is a
carry.
fucking club,
Yeah.
though,
Dude,
right?
you're
Yeah,
allowed to
exactly.
carry.
This is the States.
You're allowed to carry wherever the fuck you want. It's the States. You're allowed to carry
These
wherever you
boys
want.
live in- where
It's
was
your
this,
right.
fucking Texas or something like.
It's your fucking right.
It
Minneapolis,
was
something
like
like
Ohio,
that.
I think, or
Sorry, guys, I
something.
gotta-
Something like that. Yeah.
Take a second.
Yeah.
Do you want to pause it?
We'll just keep it going.
Okay. Yeah, it's. I can't even imagine what that must have been like, being able to see that guy like coming up on stage and even drumming while that's going on or before that goes on and seeing what's happening. Like I don't know. It feels like when you have artists and stuff like that on stage, it feels like a metal detector is almost a necessary thing. Like,
Well, after that day, for the next 5+ years, they locked down, definitely.
yeah.
Like it was just, okay, now we have to do this because who knows who's next kind of deal.
Yeah. Like,
So, and it's just so fucking bizarre, man. And going on stage once again, thinking that it was them that shut down your favorite band, quote unquote, and not thinking that it was oh fuck, this is still tough. That it wasn't Phil
yeah.
who technically abandoned them, I guess, from all accounts that I can find.
Well, and
not returning phone calls and not doing that sort of thing. It's like, okay, well now it's shutting it down without putting an end to it, kind of thing. And then some of the interviews that he put out, there was one that he put out, I dug into, what was that Dead Rock Stars podcast that we were talking about?
Yeah.
Or that we listened to a while ago, and they had a section there on Pantera. And there was a part there, one of the guys on this podcast, he had interviewed Phil for, I think it was Kerrang! Magazine. And in this interview, he had said that Dime deserved to be beaten to death or something like that, or beaten severely. And they released this in the magazine. And just before they released it on the they had to go back and check. He had to go back and check all these tapes from the interview to make sure that they quoted him accurately. Like, it was such a huge thing. And who knows if that triggered something in this cat or what? I don't know, but it's just fucked, man.
yeah.
And then to think, I mean, even so what would have happened if he never got on the stage that day? So Damage Plan would have done one album, maybe two.
Pantera.
And then I think that
I totally.
I don't think so. Pantera was done. I don't think so. I think Pantera was done because Phil quit. He shut it down. That was fucking it.
He was also like,
And-
back then. Sorry to interrupt, but he was majorly an alcoholic, majorly still on drugs.
They
Yeah.
all were, man.
And I
They
think
all
like,
were.
I think there would have been some sort of like interest in a resurgence, something that I think they would have put it back together. They still could fill up stadiums, I think, if not like large auditoriums.
I don't-
but like
At that point, the betrayal of the situation, it was far beyond money, and it was far beyond let's get on stage. Like, it was, okay, we're brothers, and you quit on us. So now, and then you said some really nuts, shitty shit about Dime and the whole situation, and very, very kind of violent sort of things. I mean, I think it would have been done anyway.
I mean, like,
so
well, I read too that I didn't even know he recorded the Tread Kill alone.
yeah.
yeah, definitely. He was in Trent Reznor's studio
Yeah. So
in New Orleans. So he recorded it with his vocals with Trent Reznor, and the other guys were still in Texas.
yeah, like didn't even record any of that. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think they were done. And even if there wasn't bad blood, and sure, Phil took a break and he pushed down and he pushed Superjoint and did that, and they just kind of faded out. I think Pantera would have been done. The times were changing. Their last two albums didn't have, they were all great, but they didn't have the hits to carry over. I think things would have just changed. Because, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, when you look at bands, the lifespan of a band, any band is like 6 years, 7 years, right? Even looking at Sabbath and Zeppelin and cats like that, where they get to a certain point from starting to you blow up and you're top of the world to you're done, it's like a 6-7 year
But all you got to do is throw some money
period,
in the
right?
situation, and 20 years later, you got some guys who are like, okay, let's do this. Yeah, hell yeah.
It's
mean,
tough, man. I mean, well, they made a lot of money off of that, and also Hell Yeah, they made a lot of fucking money. Vinny made a lot of
Did
fucking
he?
money
'Cause
off
I
of
can't
Hell Yeah.
even-
So, I mean, when you
Really?
look at that, yeah, they did something, man. I mean, I saw them. Hell Yeah opened for Korn when that album was released.
Was it
I think
good?
it was Issues Tour, and it was
Really?
it was awesome, man. It was fucking awesome. I wanted to just it was so good. The stage. I mean, it was Mudvayne and Pantera and Southern whiskey and weed and fucking. It was just cool. But to think, okay, so if it would have got to the point where it was Hell Yeah would have started with Vinny and Dime, that would have made some coin. They made some good money. They did some things. And even now, I mean, up until Vinny's death, they were doing some solid stuff. I mean, it's still in the vein of, radio bro metal, but in the grand scheme of things, but they still were doing big shows, and they could have continued on to other things. So and it would have been the pair of them through every band, every project they ever did.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I don't know. I think like Phil was too much of a wild card. And no, I mean, like, maybe you're
definitely.
right. I mean, you say it that way. Like, I don't know, the guy's got an ego, and yeah, he was inebriated for like most of the time that he was, doing his thing. I don't know if he still is. So I don't know. Who knows? But
Right.
like for the time that they did it and like what they did, it's pretty fucking awesome.
Well, they changed the face of metal. I mean, there was nothing like them before it, and there were thousands of bands exactly like it afterwards that tried to recreate that sound, and no one ever did it, and no one achieved it. But after them, they were another turning point in not just metal, but music in general that influenced a complete, 2-3 other generations of musicians, right?
No question.
And creators of any sort of musical art. Like it's unreal. So that's why Pantera will always be upper echelon of, if you had to make a top 10 list, they will always be there. Even 40 years from now, they will be there in some form. And even if it comes down to when you look at a lot of these big bands that we grew up with that started naming their influences from 10, 20 years ago, that's going to keep that memory alive, right?
Yeah, no, I think it'll keep on going. There's no question about it. I agree with you that it's that influential and that much of a turning point in music that they'll be remembered. I mean, they're still remembered now, and that album came out in 1990, right? So even that's got longevity already. So, no question about it, I think.
Yeah. Oh man, still one of my favorite things to do is go on YouTube and take a look at Dimebag when he does like demos. he'll like,
oh man, yeah, his clinic, his guitar clinics.
He'll walk
Holy
into like
shit.
a guitar shop just like wrecked, and do all of
he's in full Dime character
do
and
all of the songs off Vulgar or whatever. Just and like he's setting off car alarms outside.
Yes,
The one
that
for
was
the- he
so
does that
good
for crank amps.
at the Dean Randall. No, that was for was that
I think it's
Randall or was
like
that Crank? I think
Crank
that was
amps.
Crank amps when he because it was Crank amps. So what happened is Dime was with Dean guitars / Randall amplifiers for what was it until 94, I think it was. So from 80 whatever to 94, he was using their gear. And then Dean went out of business and he started looking for another company that would work with him and can make a guitar an amp that he wanted to do, and he found Washburn.
Right.
And Washburn, he had worked with from 94 to 2004, I think it was. He had a 10-year contract with them. And yeah, so he powered through that and did his gear thing with that. And then at the, 2004, Dean had come back into business kind of thing, and his contract was up, and he decided to, I don't know, if he just kind of used that whole path. There was nothing really left with it, so he decided to go back to Dean guitars, which is kind of cool for this last little bit before he passed. But
yeah, it's funny. You guys watch those ones. I watched the Vinnie Paul ones.
Does he show up just like, let's get her done? Doing shots.
Oh, big time. He's like, yeah, I'm Vinnie Paul, and here we go. I'm going to be playing the D drums, and I'm from Hell Yeah and Pantera and Damage Plan. And
so the question I have though is when he shows up on stage for the clinic, does he tape a coin to the kick drum?
Fuck, did he do that?
No.
Yeah, well, this is the story. So there's a certain kick drum tone that he had
for
that
sure.
no one else had, and from what they could figure, it was you would tape a coin to the kick, and it would make more of a pop, like a really tight pop sound.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of other cats afterwards tried to emulate and copy to get that. So I don't know how much
maybe
how much truth there is to that, but in your digging, is that something you've ever seen? Or
never. And you know what? They even show like some of those videos have just like back behind the back shots of Vinnie Paul playing drums, and then just like close-ups on his double kicks, right? So you can see the drums right there, and like there's nothing there, but unless it's taped on the inside, I don't know, maybe that's the thing.
Right.
But
and the backward sticks.
But I mean, you use a harder backward sticks, and you use a harder mallet on your bass drums, right? Like you use like a wooden mallet on your bass drums, and boom, I'm sure it's got to be hitting like a ton of bricks when you add a coin on top of that too, right? But
right.
But I didn't know anybody else that played D drums. Like I knew that there was D drums like accessories and like different hardware, but like he was one of the only guys that I ever knew that played D drums, and I never even saw them for sale, nothing. But like there's a whole bunch of different like Vinnie Paul versions of snare drums, D drums, snare drums, and they're like $800 kind of thing, right? And like they look awesome. I'm sure they sound probably pretty good, but I don't know much about the company because they just never really took off. And maybe somebody bought them out. I didn't follow it down the rabbit hole.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Was he with them for most of his career, or
yeah. Like
Wow.
just, and Sabian cymbals. That's what he used the whole time. But
where are those two companies based out of? Because that would influence things too.
Probably
I mean, when
Texas.
you look at Dime with Dean and Randall, right from the 80s, I mean, it must be somewhere close to home, right?
Probably, yeah. But I mean, those videos are unbelievable too, right? Like it's just like, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to, show you how this goes, and then you're just like,
This is how this goes.
So you find yourself drooling out of the side of your mouth like a minute in. You're like, oh, yeah. Like, you come to a little bit, and you're like, wow, that was insane. Like,
Yeah.
just watching technique is it's crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of lose yourself for a bit.
Whole nother level.
It is. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Do you think
Did any of you ever get into those live the videos, the behind the scenes videos they had, like vulgar display of liquor or Dime-O-Vision,
the ones where they're like
No,
partying
I
at
never watched
Dimebag's place and like smashing cars?
Yeah.
Oh, man,
vulgar
they're hard to
videos from
watch,
hell.
but
And
yeah.
it's fun, man. I got the Dime-O-Vision when it first came out, and that was, I still have it on DVD, and I think there was some sort of book that came with it too that was pretty cool. So yeah, there was a book that came with it that I got. So a lot of the behind the scenes stuff is pretty killer.
Yeah. It's just
alcohol fueled
it looked like they
brutality.
had a lot of fun. I mean,
Totally.
yeah. But yeah, you can still find some of that stuff on YouTube. I think I sat down with Otto and watched something one night. I think Kira was out, and I was just like, okay, I can watch something completely retarded. So I watched, what was it called? Vulgar display of something. And it was basically just like Dimebag Darrell, like hitting a car with a bat, doing burnouts in his front driveway with his truck, getting the dudes who were cutting his grass drunk, fireworks,
all the fireworks and shit,
a naked neighbor,
vulgar
yelling,
display
with a pole in his hand, yelling, like threatening to kill him. I have no idea. And it's like completely like all cut up, and like the production is so bad, but
vulgar display of liquor.
That's what it was.
Yeah, so cool. Other than that, I mean, the going back to the first sort of introduction to did you ever catch the episodes of Beavis and Butthead with them on it, or where they were talking about them?
Yeah, I remember those. I'd watched all those before, and yeah, they were pretty funny. It's funny going back to Beavis and Butthead because it still remains relevant after all these years for me too.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
they totally broke a lot of heavy bands, or pushed them out to a larger audience as well. You know, the whole video, the parts where they're watching the music videos and doing their own comments, that quite often I had never heard of these bands before, or didn't really push too hard into it. And then when you see it on that, it just kind of, it puts them into the light in a whole new, it just kind of pushes it out to a ton of other people. So I thought that was a really cool way of getting them out there. So.
No, yeah, for sure. I learned a lot of bands from Beavis and Butthead. Like I see them on there for the first time, right? And it was a different way to watch videos, just kind of like, commentary running at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I always loved how they would call Phil, they would use Phil's name as Pantera. So they call, damn it, Pantera, get me a beer. It's cold. This beer's warm. Kick your ass, Pantera.
Yeah.
So good. Because they had one for I'm Broken, and they had one for This Love, and I go back to those somewhat frequently, and they're always great. So.
I'll have to give those a shot.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I guess the farewell for this is, rest in peace, Vinny, and rest in peace, Dime, and get your pull.
Get your pull.